Can human beings be hacked? That is the question. Let's think about it. So, I don't know how old you are, but I remember a time when we listened to vinyl. We didn't listen to CDs. We didn't stream music. I remember a time when we didn't have computers. We didn't have cell phones. I lived at a time where everything was analog, not digital. Nothing was digital. I lived in a time when we used tubes, if anybody can remember what a tube is, instead of a transistor. And I began to observe, as I got older, how things are slowly, but surely, through technology, becoming digitized. The first time I noticed this really was with CDs. Before CDs, we had vinyl. And I think everybody knows what vinyl is. You use a record player with a stylus, and it records the piezo effect on the vinyl grooves, and it transposes those grooves into an audio signal that then gets amplified and put out through your speaker. And that's how vinyl worked. There came a time when all of a sudden CDs started coming out, and they were supposed to be the future because CDs could never be broken. You could scratch them, they would play, there's no static. They were sold on this, magic principle that they would last forever and had superior sound quality. Maybe. I know that they lacked warmth. They didn't have the warmth that analog had. But you couldn't stop it. Eventually, everything moved over to CDs, and vinyl practically disappeared. Not completely. We still had old stores with vinyl records, used vinyl records, but no one was producing real new albums on vinyl. Everything was now CDs, and they were much more expensive. 2 to 3 times more expensive. I remember paying upwards of $30 for a CD at one time. So the next thing that began to get digitized, I observed, was film. I'd been a photographer most of my life. And I remember buying film to put in my camera, photographing, taking the film out, having it developed, eventually learning how to develop my own film with chemistry, and then taking that film and enlarging it in a darkroom, making prints. It was all analog. And all of a sudden, the promise of digital film came on the horizon. Yes, it was expensive. A digital camera would cost you $10,000 or more. But it was possible. Eventually, like anything that's technology, the price comes down and more people begin to buy it and adopt it and so forth. And I mean, everybody now knows what a digital camera is, and I doubt many people know what an analog camera is or how it even works. If I was to give an analog camera to somebody today, I doubt they'd even be able to figure it out. They wouldn't even know what to do with it. If I gave somebody a roll of 35 millimeter film, I doubt they would even know what it was or how it works or even how to load a camera. So those days are gone. Actually, I think after the CD, it wasn't so much the digital film, it was the computer. I remember buying a used Macintosh computer, a Quadra 800, back in the 90s, early 90s, from a friend. And, you know, it was a computer, an Apple computer with a screen and a printer. That was digital. You can create a digital document, save it to a file, and then print it on paper. There was no internet. You couldn't connect it to something and send a message, but you had a standalone computer that could that you could scan a photograph. There were scanners. You could take a piece of photograph or a page, and you can have it scanned. That would digitize it, and it'll go into a computer. But there was no digital cameras. So then, yes, digital cameras. So after the digital camera, I started noticing how everything was starting to become digitized. How you can, especially with phones, once you started using cell phones, the idea of digitizing your voice, digitizing photographs, documents, that started to become prevalent. So all of a sudden we started shifting from a world of paper, an analog world, into this world of digital information, a digital world. And even then, I don't think people really clued in as to what was happening. But then, over the last 4 years or so, I've been noticing this new trend of people wearing digital accessories like iWatch and wearing other forms of wearables that could read things like how many steps they took, what their pulse is, etc. So the trend to wear wearables that are able to sense and perceive our biological data, that sort of was the initial kind of wake-up call for me. That was the thing that told me, wow, this is interesting. You know, now we're getting to a place where we can actually start to interface with the human body. We're not just talking about a digital camera or digitizing a piece of vinyl. We're talking about a way of trying to map out our biological body in a digital way. And I mean, initially, it's a simple way. You know, you can measure your pulse. Yeah, fine. Oh, you can measure how many steps I took. Oh, wow, that's great. But that's just the foot in the door, so to speak, right? With the advent of the iPhone and its powerful CPU, now we're able to use the computing power of the iPhone with a wearable to do data analysis that was never possible in the past. So you might have heard of the Oura Ring, which is a ring made out of Finland that tracks your sleep. Now, it measures things like body temperature. It measures supposedly how long you sleep, the stages of your sleep, whether you're in deep sleep, light sleep, REM sleep, awake, when you wake up. It measures if you toss and turn. It measures if you're breathing fast or slow. It's pretty ingenious. So that's another form of bio-tracking. But we're going from this place of bio-tracking to biohacking. And I'm sure, again, most of you have probably heard the term biohacks. I'm sure you have, where you're supposedly able to hack your body's innate systems to your advantage. whether that means that you're going to squeeze more out of yourself using a biohack, whether you're going to be able to run faster than the other guy or do something better than the other guy, to think faster, to be more intelligent, whatever it is you're trying to do, be more muscular, better looking, change your eye color, whatever. It's a biohack. Wow, I did this biohack and, I only needed 5 hours of sleep last night and I feel great. So there's this tendency now, and has been for the last few years, to biohack, right? But these biohacks are basically, they're kind of workarounds. They're sort of little cheats that you do with your body to try to squeeze something out of it. And ultimately, I still don't believe you can get something for nothing. There's no such thing. The law of nature, if you take something, you're going to have to give something up. You don't get something for nothing. But now we've drifted from biohacks to hacking the body. That is scary. Now, when we start looking at this, we're talking about things like Neuralink, technology put out by Elon Musk, where he wants to put probes in your brain and figure out a way that we could communicate without using words. Sounds nice, right? You could read my mind, I could read your mind. Sounds like, utopia, doesn't it? I don't. So I believe this is a Trojan horse. They're selling us this hack your body concept as a way of getting to this utopia where you could read each other's minds and we can solve every medical problem, because if we can hack your body, we can find a cure for every illness. We could treat aging, you can live forever, etc. But I believe this is a con. This gets everybody excited, like, oh, we're all going to live on Mars one day because the Earth is going to be uninhabitable. But who wants to live on Mars? Do you want to live on Mars? Personally, I think it's just their clever way of trying to get us up on Mars so they can have the planet to themselves. So don't fall for that con. That's a con. Biohacking? That's a con too. So can the human body be hacked? Well, it seems like they're trying really hard. Now with the advent of nanotechnology, powerful computers in a very small nanoparticle that could be put into our bodies either through an injection or inhaled, and that then these nanoparticles can interact with our cells. They can latch onto our cells, and then the nanoparticles can start to sense certain properties about our cells and it communicate them back to the computer, the main computer, whether it's an iPhone or what have you, through some kind of remote radio waves, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, what have you, and be able to measure properties about ourselves in real time. Maybe they can measure our pH in real time. Maybe they can measure the activity of the cell in real time. There's a whole list of properties. There's a whole encyclopedia of properties that could be somehow listed and sensed by nanotechnology. And remember, these are powerful little microchips on a nanoparticle that you can't even see, that is inhaled or injected inside us and latches on to our cells all over our body. It could latch onto a liver cell. It can latch onto a brain cell. It could latch onto a kidney cell. And each cell that it latches on, it will identify with. And it will map out your whole body. Your body will be mapped out like a pixel. Think about me taking a picture and looking at this picture, let's say it's a picture of the Eiffel Tower, and you could pinpoint where every pixel is, and you could say, oh yeah, that pixel, that's the tippy top of the tower. Well, in the same way, once these nanoparticles are inside us and they distribute all over our cells, within the computer, it could be mapped out that, oh, look, that nanoparticle is sitting on a certain kidney cell. And we're looking at the kidney cell right now. Oh, this nanoparticle is residing in the pineal gland of the person's brain. And we can map that out. All of a sudden, they have a complete map of our biological body. That's the first step. They're knocking on the door. They've attached themselves to each cell of our body using nanotechnology. That's the first wedge in the door to hacking our bodies. It's not a biohack. This is actually hacking our bodies. The same way a computer hacker will break into your computer. It's just a matter of time. Believe me. So you have biology, you have nanotechnology, you have computer power, and you have data that's coming out of that. You multiply that all together, and we are hacked. It's just a matter of time. It will be a brute force hack. Have you ever heard of a brute force hack where, hackers will combine thousands of computers to attack your server and bring it down? Well, in the same way, if they have nanotechnology surrounded in our bodies on every cell, perceiving all the properties that they can associate with the cell. And eventually they're going to acquire more properties that they can determine and sense. Eventually they will be able to do the other way around. They'll not only sense our cells, they'll be able to control our cells. Not only will they be able to listen, but they will also be able to program our cells. We are opening ourselves up to a situation where we might not even be aware that we've been digitized, that we've been taken over. We won't even know if the thoughts we have on our minds are really ours, or if the thoughts are being placed there through some external system, through an AI. That's what's going to happen. That's where this is leading. In another video, I'll talk about maybe why this is happening and what is the underlying force or energy that's leading this, because I think that subject is a whole other conversation. But the technology to hack our bodies is here. We are basically at its inception. And although we might think it's really cool and, oh, wow, we're going to cure all these diseases and we'll be living forever, that is a con. Just like the internet was a con to convince you that, oh, now I can send emails to my friends in another country and I can share pictures of my wedding with my friends in Europe. Yeah, it had a good purpose. We could share ideas. We can, have this, internet of freedom and sharing. But you realize what that turned into, with social media. Now it's censored, and the propaganda is overwhelming. So now we're actually trapped in this internet. And yeah, it has some nice things about it, but it's not what it was cut out to be. So what do you think? You think we're being hacked? Do you think eventually nanotech is going to be able to interface with our biology and take over? Let me know. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Until next time.